Today we're going to be exploring how to graph straight lines. Our learning objective will be that we are going to be working in groups, and as a group we're going to be able to fill out a coordinate pair table, graph these coordinate pairs, and connect them in order to demonstrate a linear relationship of a given equation. My name is Miss Okel, and this is for my introductory algebra class. First, we should ask ourselves, what is a straight line? And let's say as a class we're going to be taking an end-of-the-year field trip to Elitch Gardens. Let's say I'm at point A on this map, and I'm at the old wooden roller coaster on the far left side, and I want to get to point B, over on the water slide. Do you think the fastest way to get from A to B would be to go in a straight line? Or would it be faster to go through the park? So, if we think about this, the definition of a straight line is a line traced by a point moving in a constant direction. And if I wanted to go directly from point A to point B while we were visiting Elitch, I would have a straight line. So, if we think about this, a straight line is going to be the fastest way to get from one place to another. So I would want to go directly from point A to point B. Thinking about this, we need to think about what straight lines look like. And there are a couple of different things that straight lines can be represented by. The first thing is a graph, and the second is an equation. First, we're going to look at a graph. Graphs have two very important features that we can inspect. The first is its slope, and the slope demonstrates how things are changing vertically, which on this picture is the red arrow, versus how things are changing horizontally, which in this picture is the blue arrow. The second thing is a y-intercept on a graph. The y-intercept is where the graph is going to cut through the y-axis and where our input value, or our x value, is 0. Knowing what slope and intercept are, we can come up with an equation that will describe what a straight line looks like. Lines can be written in two forms. The first is point-slope form, which we'll be looking at later on, and the second is slope-intercept form, which is on this picture here. The x and the y in the equation that we see corresponds to our coordinate pairs x comma y on a graph. X is going to be the input value that we're plugging into the equation, and y is going to be the value that we're getting out. M is going to correspond to our slope, which is our rise over run, and B is going to correspond to our y-intercept, which is that spot on the graph that goes through the y-axis. So knowing these two things, we can learn how to draw our own straight lines. We're going to work with this example, y equals 2x plus 2, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a table, and I'm going to pick x values to the left and to the right of the y-axis. I'm looking at -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I'm going to go into my equation and I'm going to plug these values in, which you can see at the bottom table. I've plugged in -2 for my x, and I've gotten -2 out for my y. The next one I've plugged in -1, and I've gotten 0 for my y. After that I've plugged in 0 for x, and I've gotten 2 for y. Then I've plugged in 1 for x, I've gotten 4 for y. And I've plugged in 2 for x, and I've gotten 6 for y. The picture that you see on the graph, the arrows are going from -2 to 0 to 2 to 4 to 6. We can look at this pattern and we can see between each of the y values we're adding 2. This 2 corresponds to our slope. We're going to be rising 2 and running 1. And if we look at the point 0, where we're plugging in 0 for x, we have a 2. We can see this point on our graph in the next slide. So what we want to do, if we're going to draw our own lines, we're going to create a table, we're going to pick x values, we're going to plug them into the equation, and we're going to get our corresponding y values. This is going to let us graph points. So we're going to continue on with our example, and we're going to draw. Using what we know about slope-intercept form, our slope is 2, just like we said in the last slide, and our intercept should be 0, 2. So we're going to start with the first point on our table, -2, -2, and we're going to draw it on this picture here. I have a coordinate plane on the picture. I've labeled my x-axis and my y-axis, and I've also labeled my number lines. After that, I'm going to go to the next point. I have -1, 0, and that's on the graph here. I'm going to do that with the next point again. I have 0, 2. There's our y-intercept. This is where the line is going to hit the y-axis. Then I have 1, 4, and lastly I have 2, 6. Now that I have all of my points plotted, I can draw a line. And again, there's our y-intercept. And there's our slope where we're going up 2 for each point. And there's our line. Okay, now for the assignment today, I'm going to ask whose line is this? If you guys have seen that old TV show, maybe, maybe not. But everybody has a workboard at their desk. We're going to be doing the same thing that I just did here on the board. These workboards have different tasks for each group member. I have roles assigned next to each of your names. There is a role sheet that I have given out that is going to describe each one of your roles. So somebody is going to fill out the XY table to find coordinate pairs. Someone else is going to plot these points on our graph. And then the last person is going to be able to draw our line. And that is our assignment for today. Good luck, guys.